Hello, this is Professor Keen. This is Introduction to Astronomy. We've been looking at Aristotle's book On the Heavens. In the last lecture, we made our way into Book 2. We got up to Chapter 4. You might recall that in that chapter, the question that Aristotle was interested in was, what is the shape of the body of the heavens? So this is a very difficult question to answer. In fact, there's debate about it still to this day. We say, what is the shape of the universe? Is it infinite in size or is it finite in size? I want to point out that Aristotle, here in about 350 BC, is asking very modern questions, even if his approach and his answers aren't identical to what we're doing today. Basically, the idea is that if you're standing here on Earth, you see the heavens moving around us in a circular kind of motion. So he argues it would be sensible for the heavens to be spherical in shape. He gives a number of other arguments. You can assess how convincing you think those are, but keep in mind that these are very difficult questions to answer. No one has gone outside of the universe, looked back at it, taken a snapshot, and been able to measure the shape of the universe. So how do we, finite beings standing here on Earth, decide what the shape of the universe is? Is there a rational way to approach this? And Aristotle seems to think that there is, and he's giving it his best shot. You can decide how convincing you think he is. Now, let's move on to Chapter 5 of On the Heavens. This is on page 12 of a student's guide to the great physics texts. And here, the question that he's asking, this is a very brief chapter, but the question with which Aristotle is concerned is, why do the heavens, or why does the body of the heavens, oops, let me go back and retype that. The body of the heavens. Again, we call it the body of the heavens because he thinks about it as an object or a shape. Why do the body of the heavens move in a circle in the direction that they do and not the other? And not the other. Basically, he's saying, why, when you look up, do the stars rise in the east and go down in the west, as opposed to rising in the west and going down in the east? Why do they rotate in the direction that they do? Now, how does he approach this question? Well, he says it could just be a brute fact. It could just be a given. That's just the way it happens. But he's really not satisfied with that. He believes that there must be a reason or a rationale that can be found for things that we see in nature. And this is sometimes nowadays called the principle of sufficient reason. So his approach, he doesn't call it this, is what's called the principle of sufficient reason, sometimes called PSR for short. And the principle of sufficient reason basically says that there is a sufficient or an adequate reason for anything that we see in nature. That is, another way of saying that is, everything is intelligible. It's a claim about nature. Everything is intelligible. And this is one of the main ideas that drives science, and not just science, but research scholarship generally. If you're looking at something in nature, or you're looking for a human action that was done in the past, why did the United States go to war with Germany and Japan in World War II? Presumably, in asking that question, you're looking for a reason for why that was done, and the assumption is that there was a reason. We might not know that reason, there might be multiple reasons, but there is some reason for these things, and Aristotle is taking that assumption and applying it to nature, saying anything that we see in nature, there must be a sufficient reason for it, even if we don't know what that reason is right now. So, what does he answer to this? His answer to this question he admits that this is a very difficult question to answer, and it sounds like he's not entirely sure. But he seems to suggest that if nature is ordered in the best way, then the direction that it is rotating must be the superior or the better of the two directions. So notice he kind of turns this around and says, although I don't know what the reason is, if we assume that nature is ordered in the best possible way, then whatever reason we find for it, it must be that that direction is the best direction. Okay? So that's his kind of brief approach to this. And again, he seems like he's a little bit unhappy because he doesn't have a reason, he doesn't know a reason, and yet he kind of takes a stab at it and tries to say what's the most that we can say about this. Okay? This is his chapter 5. Let's make a little bit of inroads into his chapter 6 and see how far we can get before next time. So here's the question that he's addressing in chapter 6. This is on page 13 of A Student's Guide to the Great Physics Texts. The question is the motion of the heavens regular or irregular? Is the motion of the heavens regular or irregular? We'll explain what we mean by regular and irregular in a moment, but his answer that he provides right at the beginning is that the heavenly movement is regular. At least when we're talking about the first or the primary heaven. The first or primary heaven, this outer celestial sphere on which the stars are located, that one is regular in motion. So he does notice that if you're thinking about the Earth right here, and again, you've got the moon going around, and you've got Mercury going around, and you've got Venus going around, and the sun going around, and Mars, and Jupiter going around the Earth, and Saturn going around the Earth. So these ones exhibit more complicated motions, but by the time you get out to the sphere on which the stars are located, it has a very regular pattern of movement. The stars rise in the east and set in the west. They don't go backwards in any way. They have a regular motion. Okay, so we know this by observation. By observation, the outer celestial sphere, the one on which the stars are riding, does not speed up or slow down. So it doesn't speed up or slow down. It has been going at the same rate for as long as anyone has cared to look at it. Why is it going at this regular rate? Why is it going at this constant rate? Again, this is an observational fact that it seems to do that. It appears to do that. But why? Again, he says there should be some reason behind it. He's again appealing to this principle of sufficient reason. We should be able to eventually answer this question. And he basically goes to this argument from motion. He says that everything that is moved must be moved by something. And again, by moved, he means changed. So if there is some change in the motion of the celestial sphere, that change must be happening for some reason. And it doesn't seem like there's any reason outside of it that would give rise to it slowing down or speeding up. After all, if it suddenly started accelerating, going faster and faster, there must be something outside of it that's causing it to speed up. Or if it's slowing down, there must be something that is causing it to slow down. But the prime mover, the thing that keeps it in motion, is itself unchanging. So it wouldn't be sensible for this prime mover to sort of sit around for a while holding this outer celestial sphere moving at a certain rate and then suddenly to change its mind and make it speed up or change its mind and make it slow down.